Hello folks, it's me, Kerbanaut here. Welcome to another episode of Let's Actually Play Kerbal Space Program. It has been a while since I did an episode. It's actually been like 4 weeks, almost exactly, and I feel very sorry about that, but I've had so much to do. A lot of real life stuff has just been getting in the way of lots of uni stuff. Anyway, I'm not going to complain about that or make excuses. We're going to jump right into this episode and we're going to get stuff done. Because we have to do a lot of stuff. We have been way behind on stuff to do. So, we have 4 episodes of stuff that is missing. 4 weeks, 4 episodes is missing, so we have to cram it all in. But I don't think we're going to cram all of it in, so we're going to get some of it now and then some of it in a later episode. But now, what we're doing to begin this episode is we're launching up ISU, an independent supply unit, which is this kind of fuel and RCS and just a wee probes and, you know, solar panels, just the whole shebang. Just it gives resources to whatever craft it docks to. In this instance, it's docking to the shuttle that's taking Kerbals and, you know, just stuff in general from LKO to LMO, which is low minimus or moon orbit, you know, depending on which one this station is at. So we do dump off some fuel and some other stuff, RCS and whatnot, and then we're going to RCS our way all the way back to the ISU probe, which is really just the upper stage of the Socrates 1 lifter. This, if you remember from an earlier episode, I can't remember which one it was, but I've been using this as our new kind of lifting stage, our lifter stage, just our lifter in general. So yeah, the Socrates 1 has a disposable lower stage, and then the upper stage is reusable, or, you know, it's supposed to be reusable. You know, obviously with KSP it has its limits. You can't actually, you know, plop it back on top and, you know, restage everything. That's a pain. You can't do that. But what you can do is you can put some legs on it and you can land it. So that's what we're doing there. We just deorbited it to get to land. Now we're not going to show that because we don't have time. We have too much stuff to do. So what we've done is we've brought it in close next to Sphery Station, so we can dock on this ISU with the remaining fuel and RCS and pump it into Sphery Station, because, you know, who doesn't love more fuel and RCS, especially on this lovely station. So yeah, we do all the transferring of the fuel, all the transferring of the RCS, and then we undock and prepare to burn up in the atmosphere and destroy this lovely ISU. It's, you know, all of its resources are gone, more or less. It's got a wee bit of mono propellant in it just to, you know, let it deorbit. So we do that, and we let it burn up in the atmosphere. Now, we're launching Leo. What Leo is going to be doing is it's going to be going up to Sphery Station, and it's going to give it some stuff, because right now we don't have any you know, escape plans. We don't have anything there, and I think what we have sorely missed on Sphery Station is an SSTO. We haven't had Leo up there really for any extended period of time. Plus, what I wanted to do was test out something new on Leo. I'm testing out some of these aerospike engines on Leo at the moment, which is actually working quite well. What I found is that they are a bit heavier than the LV909s, but because they're more efficient, they make up for that. So the end result is that you consume basically the same amount of fuel. It's just that you're a bit more efficient, lower in the atmosphere than with the LV909s, and they're more powerful as well. But you don't get gimbaling. So it's, you know, it's like basically a trade-off of different things, but in such a way that really their use is, you know, limited, and it just depends what you're going to be using it for, really. In this case, they did basically the same job, because we don't really need a lot of gimbaling in this. We don't need that much kind of movement, because we're just pointing straight forward. So yeah, the aerospikes performed nicely. And kind of met my standards, but I'm not sure if I'm going to be continuing to use them in Leo. So, you know, this is just a test, kind of experimental craft, as you were. I mean, everything else is the same, you know, we've still got the same wings, same all that. Same Spaceplane Plus that's awesome, and it's going to be added in 0.25, so excited for that, by the way. And yeah, so we come up and we dock onto the rotating habitat, the artificial gravity habitat. We did bring up some fuel with us, because we have a cargo bay there, so, just be a waste if we left that empty. So we just plopped some fuel in there, and we're gonna just pump a wee bit of that. In fact, all of it really into our into Sphery Station, into one of the modules that docked onto Sphery Station. Well, actually, the module that we pumped it into wasn't docked. It's using the claw, and it's a pain. That is a really old module. It doesn't have any RCS on it. I am actually thinking of replacing that, but we're not going to do that this episode. Maybe in a later episode. Anyway, what we are going to do is undock this empty fuel container. It does have some RCS, does have a probe core on it. I was actually, originally what I was thinking of doing was just bringing up Leo with this payload, docking it on, bringing Leo back, and just going on to the next thing. But I realized that we actually don't have the crew shuttle that goes from Kerbin to LKO, so I decided just to keep Leo up, just in case anything should happen, just in case, an asteroid should magically hit the station or something. I decided that we would keep Leo up there just in case. So what we do is we just use the RCS on this small thing to fling it back to Kerbin and let it burn up in the atmosphere. Okay, so yeah, this is the shuttle that's going from LKO to LMO. Now, at this point, it's going to be going to Minimus, so we've refueled it, as you remember. Now, we're going to be bringing it back to Minimus, because there's no point in it just sitting in Kerbin orbit, doing nothing, just sitting there. So we're going to bring it back to Celia Station, which is in low orbit around Minimus, or I think it's in low... Yeah, it is in low orbit. With Minimus, it's hard to tell, because it's such a small body. What may actually be low orbit looks like high orbit, because, or it looks like a higher orbit in comparison to what you're looking at with Kerbin, just because it's such a small body. But I guess you can tell by all the mountains and whatnot. So yeah, what I was saying earlier about not having a crew shuttle, not having kind of any escape plan from Sphery Station, I realised that I really do need to, fix that. I need to do something about that. Now, we don't necessarily need to get rid of Leo. That can, we can go through some long endurance testing in space or whatever. I don't know. Call it what you will. But we're going to be keeping Leo up there for now. What we are going to do, though, is we're going to be bringing up another crew shuttle. I'm really going to need to give this a proper name instead of just calling it the crew shuttle, because I keep getting confused between that crew shuttle and the crew shuttle that goes from LKO to LMO. So we're going to need to figure out something there. Something to just define this kind of upper stage. I'll have to come up with a name. So yeah. I'll think about that later, but for right now what we're doing is we're bringing this up to Sphery Station so we can dock it on, and, just have a little bit of a... well, it's just really good to have this up here, basically. This thing can act not only as an escape plan for any Kerbals, or just for transferring science from LKO to Kerbin, because it's really good at doing that too. It's got its own heat shield, it's got a supply kind of stage on it that got lots of RCS, it really can do a lot. So not only can it, act as an escape plan or get science to Kerbin, but it can also act as a tug, which is extremely useful because we don't actually have any tugs in space at the moment. So this craft acts like a tug for a lot of the things that we're doing. But for now, it's not going to be acting like a tug. We're just docking it onto Sphery Station to be used later, perhaps. Hint, hint, we will definitely be using it this episode. This is sped up to 2 times speed, right? So, you can kind of see that I'm going quite slowly. I realized that and decided to speed up because it was not working very well. Okay, so next up is a completely new ship that we're going to be building. This is something that I have been wanting to do for a while, just haven't got round to it, but now I have decided that we really do need to get on with this. Ever since we unlocked the grabbing unit, the claw, we have we have had the ability to go out and capture asteroids. We have had that ability to go out and study them, but we have not at all done that. So I've decided to pursue that as a goal of the space program. That is going to be one of our goals, to find and rendezvous with an asteroid. Perhaps not bring it back to Kerbin, but just rendezvous with it and study it, get some lovely science from an asteroid. And perhaps, if we have the Delta V left over from rendezvousing, if we can, we will bring it back. But that is not a promise, that is simply just an if we have the fuel, we will do that. What we are promising as a space program to everyone that is listening, we will find an asteroid and we will study it, and then we'll come back, with or without that asteroid. So yeah, the first two things we have to launch up to make the ship that's going to be taking our Kerbals and our scientific equipment to the asteroid. The first thing we're going to launch up are these two tugs. These two tugs are different only in one way, and that is that one of the docking ports has been replaced. So on one of the tugs, the docking port is a normal docking port, and on the other it is a junior, and both then have senior docking ports, because the senior docking port is going to be the main docking port on this ship. So the next thing to be launched up is a habitat module. It's an inflatable habitat from another PorkJet mod. PorkJet makes two mods, one of which is Spaceplane Plus, which I absolutely adore, and the other is the inflatable habitats mod, and again, I just love it. It's just so beautiful. I don't know how he does it, or she, I don't know, maybe it's a she. But yeah, so we're launching up this inflatable habitat. We don't inflate it just yet, there's no point to, there's no Kerbals. However, once we do attach it to the thing, we decide, you know what, it's fine. This is the beginning of the spacecraft that's going to be wandering the skies in search of an asteroid. We might as well inflate it to, have a look and whatnot. So yeah, I decide that it was a bit silly of me to dock onto that side, so we come round to the other side and have to dock on, because remember that each tug has a separate docking port, like as a different docking port. So this one has a senior and a normal, and the other one has a senior and a junior. So if we had docked on that side, the other tug would not have been able to dock to this. So we hop over to the other side to let this tug with its senior docking port dock on to the inflatable habitat. That way it's all contained so that they don't float apart when we're launching up the next rocket. Speaking of which, this is the next rocket. Now, I can't exactly remember what it is, but we will find out in just a second, and you will be just as surprised as I am. Let's see what this is. So we pop that off, and we take a look at it, and yes, I now remember and what it is. This is the science bay. This is the laboratory, because of course we are going to be launching up scientific equipment, but only a small amount of scientific equipment. This laboratory allows us to launch up just a small amount and yet get the most bang for our buck, if you will. We're going to... having launched this up, it'll mean basically that we don't have to bring up tons and tons of science equipment, basically. It means that we don't have to bring up tons and tons of, bays, what's it called? Science bays, the material base is what I'm talking about, and we don't have to bring up tons and tons of mystery goo containers, or because we've got the laboratory, it means we can refresh our experiments, and that means it's going to be so much more efficient. Means that we don't have to have as much fuel. Now we're bringing up the next module, which you'll see is a kind of a large electronic battery pack, if you will. We don't have 2.5 meter. I think it's 2.5, I'm not sure. I think that's the size. But we don't have, the 2 meter, batteries. There aren't any. Or not to the best of my knowledge. I don't think. I can't remember at the moment. But instead we have launched up these, basically a massive battery pack. But batteries are absolutely no use without a source of power. And that is where Leo is going to come in again. Now you'll see that this isn't the modified Leo with the aerospike engines. This is just the normal classic Leo that's going to be delivering our electronic generators, if you will. Electronic generators? No, generators of electricity. You know what I mean. So, yeah, we're just going to be using some solar panels, but the solar panel modules are so small that we can just fit them inside the cargo bay of Leo, and there's no point in wasting an entire lower stage of a Socrates lifter if we could just launch up in Leo and recover everything but the fuel. And really, we're using significantly less fuel bringing this up in Leo than we are if we were bringing it up with a Socrates lifter. So, yeah, we've just dumped it in the cargo bay here, and we're going to bring it up. Now, the way that this works is one of the tugs, because of course, you know, they've each got different docking ports. One of the tugs is going to dock on to the solar panel once we let it out of the cargo bay. So you'll see here, I've cancelled out my relative velocity, and that will allow me to just sit stationary relative to Neptune. By the way, the ship's called Neptune. Forgot to mention that, but mentioned it now. So the ship's called Neptune. Yeah, what we do is we sit relative with a negative. I was going to say negative velocity, but no, we have no velocity. We're cancelled out. Completely nothing. Zip, zero, all gone. We're completely stationary relative to Neptune. Then what we do is we open the cargo bay doors, we undock from the solar panels, we then thrust downwards, so from our perspective it looks like the solar panels are rising majestically out of the cargo bays, and then we close the cargo bay doors and run away, so that we don't get in the way of any of the other processes that are going to be taking place here. Once that's done, we undock the tug. We then dock onto the solar panels, and then we position the solar panels so that they come into line with this tiny junior docking port, so that we can dock it on, and then we dock it on, like you see here. Lovely. And extending the solar panel just to make sure that it's all working fine and we're doing good. Okay, so here we are. We bring Leo back. Of course, we can't have Leo just sitting in orbit forever, so we bring it back. Lovely. Absolutely delicious landing right there. Unfortunately, it does end up being a bit of a close one. You see, I'm getting closer and closer and closer to the end of the runway here. Are we going to run off the end? And my goodness, it is close. I'm not sure how far that is in Kerbal meters, but it is close. So what we do is we just reset, we refuel, we reload with the cargo, which is incidentally exactly the same. So basically, they've just dumped a new cargo in, they've refueled the craft, they've told the pilots to do the exact same thing again, and then we lift off from here. Unfortunately, we do happen to tilt over a wee bit, but thankfully we get air before we run into that end light or run off the runway. So, you know, we do that, we correct our course, and rendezvous with Sphery Station once again to repeat the process of undocking from the solar panels and running off into the distance and hoping that no one sees us. Well, kind of. I guess no one really can see us because we're the only ones in space at the moment, apart from those on Sphery Station, which is interesting. Anyway, no, we dock on like last time and we extend the solar panels. This is just a repetitive process. I really wish I could talk more about more interesting things. Perhaps I should talk about the wonderful beauty that is 0.25 that is going to be coming in the future. Or perhaps you're watching this from the future and 0.25 is already here, in which case I envy you. You have that update and it's pretty cool. What we're going to be getting definitely in 0.25 is basically enhanced navball. So the mod I'm using at the moment, enhanced navball, which you see on the navball, as you would guess, is called enhanced navball, and what it does is it adds normal and radial kind of markers on your navball so that you know which way is your normal and radial. That's just basically pointing, you know, north or south normally because you're in an equilateral orbit. But in this case, it's just well, what am I saying? What am I even doing? I have no idea. Sorry, I'm getting distracted because I'm trying to keep up with what we're doing on screen, but also talk about enhanced navball. No, so yeah, we are getting that in next update, which is really awesome. I think we're also getting some new and interesting things. I've been told, or perhaps I've not been told, but I've heard that we are also getting the administration building, which will work as kind of a transferring between funds and science and reputation. So it'll allow us to exchange between those units, which will be really interesting. And I'd love to see what they're actually planning on doing with that, which is going to be really interesting. But here we go. We've launched up this module to Neptune, and I'm sure you can guess what it is. It's slapped right bang on the end there, and extending the solar panels once again just to complete the look of the spacecraft. We have docked this on. Now, one thing about Neptune that makes it completely different from any other spacecraft that's gone, you know, a lot of places in space, or it has, you know, gone into deep space, into interplanetary space, is that they've been using chemical rockets. Now, chemical rockets are all fine and dandy, but they're not efficient in any way, shape, or form. Even the nuclear engine, which technically shouldn't be a chemical rocket as such, that is still only at a certain level of efficiency. It's very efficient relative to other chemical rockets, but there's one engine in the game that seemingly has been souped up in the past couple of updates, and we haven't been using it. And you know what that engine is? That engine is the Ion engine. Now, I really love the Ion engine. I cannot tell you how much I adore it. I think it is just so underappreciated, even by myself, and I think we really just need to focus on it more. And so I've put together this kind of experimental engine cluster, which will, you know, power Neptune, push it into the distant galaxies of far away. Well, not distant distant planets of far away. Anyway, you can see what we've been doing while I've been yabbering on about Ion engines. Is we've taken the two tugs and we're bringing it back to Sphery Station. We're going to dock it on because you know, we have a ton of RCS here, and you know, their job is done. So might as well dock them on, take the RCS, dump it into, you know, as many places as we can, and then, you know, drop it on Kerbin and hope it doesn't hit anyone on the head and cause them any severe brain damage, because that would, you know, not be good. Not that, you know, Kerbals would really feel the difference. I think they just kind of are severely brain damaged anyway, or perhaps they are so incredibly smart they don't really care about dying or something. I don't know. I'm making this stuff up, guys. Please humor me. So we land the Socrates 1 upper stage there, and we're bringing back Leo. This is not Leo from Sphery Station. This is the Leo that brought up one of the solar panels, I believe. But I'm struggling with my landing skills. I've said this many times, and I'll say it again, I'm not a good pilot in any way, shape, or form. I am a horrible pilot. I kind of feel sorry for anyone who would be stuck in a plane with me and I would be flying it, you know. Especially in Kerbal Space Program, and even more so with FAR installed. So, yeah, I do get it down, and we land safely and whatnot. Going back up to Sphery Station, we are transferring some crew over to the shuttle yet to be named, because it's not going to be sticking around at a Sphery Station. I've decided that we, instead of launching up another shuttle and bringing it to Neptune, because I was originally planning on taking a shuttle up, docking it to Neptune, and then using it as a kind of a habitat thing. I think in one of the planned missions to Mars, I think is it Constellation, or some kind of planned mission to Mars, they were thinking of doing the same kind of thing. I think it was an Orion. I think it was Orion. They called it. It was like a capsule, and they used it to kind of go around in space and whatnot. It was very cool. Until it got cancelled, of course. So this is going to be the same type of thing. It's just going to be heading up towards Neptune. It's going to dock on. It's just going to not only hold our astronauts, or Kerbanaut should I say, for the time that they're going to be in space, or some of the time they're going to be in space. They also have that inflatable habitat, of course, but it's also going to be used for when they return to Kerbin, because you know, how are we going to get them back? Unless, in worst case scenario, we're only going to have enough fuel to get on a rendezvous with Kerbin, maybe in kind of a intercept course, so that we're going to ram straight into the atmosphere. Unfortunately, in that case, we would kill our Kerbals, and that is not good. So, by having this, it means that if that is the case, and we do have to do that, if we run out of Delta V, then we can all jump into this capsule. We can detach its little supply stage and just use that to re-enter the atmosphere, and it'll all be fine. So it's almost like a backup, and you know, it's always nice to have. Plus it'll be used to kind of move around the scientific experiments that we're about to send up. So, speaking of which, here they are. This is the scientific experiments that we're sending up. Again, in Leo. This time what we do is we wait for the engines just to heat up, as it were, you know, get the thrust nice and high. Now, this is a modified version of Leo. You might not be able to see it straight up. I'm not using any new engines, but what I have done is I moved the gear, the landing gear, forward a wee bit, so it's closer to the center of mass, meaning that kind of it's more of a pivot, and so I can easily tilt up the nose before we get to the end of the runway, because that's been an issue. What I've also done is I think I put like a docking thing on there. Yeah, I put like a docking thing on there. I'm not really sure why I did that. We don't really need a docking thing. But that also kind of moved the center of mass, and I think that was a bit weird. I had some real trouble flying it up. I almost ripped the ship to bits. I mean, it wasn't like, it didn't look like it, but I was struggling against all of its moving and everything. Anyway, what we're doing here is, because we've got rid of the tugs, I've had to basically throw the scientific equipment in the general direction of Neptune. Neptune, of course, being the ship's name, and hoping it hits the docking port. To be fair, it's not like I just kind of roughly aimed and threw it. It was more of a kind of a precise RCS maneuver. Well, I'll say that, but really it was just me chucking it in the right direction. And I then used Neptune to kind of point in the right direction of the docking port, and thankfully the magnetism does the rest of the work that needs to be done to get that scientific equipment to attach on. Now comes the moment of truth. We have to check if our engines are really going to work, if they're going to do the job. And to do this, and you remember we are stationary relative to Leo, and so what we're going to do is we're going to thrust with these ion engines and see what the end result is. So we're powering up the ion engines now. Let's see if we're moving. And indeed, you can see we are picking up speed relative to Leo, which means that these engines are not only working, but they're doing a brilliant job. This is only at 2 times speed, and I only had those engines on for a couple of seconds. And so this engine cluster is going to be really brilliant. Not only is it going to give us a reasonable thrust, but it's also got a ton of fuel, which is going to give us almost limitless Delta V, or perhaps just Delta V so high that, you know, we should be absolutely fine. You can see that we've got all our science equipment there, but we will have to leave this episode there, folks. Again, I'm sorry for being so late on this one. I'm going to try and make another episode soon, and perhaps we will just end this episode here with the shadow of Leo on Neptune as it flies away from the ship. Well, that's all from me, folks. I will see you in the next one. Have a great day. Bye-bye.